Why do babies laugh? Humor has always been subjective. Where some people prefer the physical comedy of Jim Carrey, others may find the dry approach of Albert Brooks preferable. Babies, of course, are not big on subtlety, making silly faces, tickling their feet, or pretending you've disappeared in an endless loop of temporal displacement, otherwise known as peekaboo, are all ways to get tiny people to laugh. But why exactly are they laughing? Is it because they find their parents funny? Or is it a reflex? Are they processing humor? Or is it merely a way of socializing? Is baby laughter a way of saying, please continue paying attention to me? We asked several babies and got no answers. In many cases, a loaded diaper ended questioning prematurely. Fortunately, a number of researchers have explored the topic of what infants find funny in depth. Almost all babies are laughing by the time they're 4 months old. Gina Miro, a professor of psychology in the Behavioral Sciences Department at Northern Vermont University, tells Mental Floss. But, Miro adds, in both adults and babies, one of the biggest misunderstandings about humor is that it doesn't have to have anything to do with something being funny. From the very start, babies are nonverbal. They burble and coo all sorts of incoherent nonsense. That's why smiling, laughing and crying are just so crucial for them to interact with the rest of the world. You probably won't catch a baby laughing all by herself. It's a social response, as Moreau points out. The key ingredient is, well, another person. Babies usually start smiling at around 6 to 12 weeks old. By 3 to 4 months, they'll laugh at things involving physical stimulation, like, tickling, raspberries, or being bounced on a caregiver's knee. Actually, in a 2014 study led by developmental psychologist Casper Addyman at the Goldsmiths Infant Lab at the University of London, parents reported that tickling was the top way to get their child to laugh. At 5 to 6 months, babies have learned enough about the world around them to get the basic idea of humor, a kind of distortion of reality. Once they've figured out what normal human behavior looks like, they'll giggle at things like big eyes, puffed-out cheeks, and high-pitched voices. Miro says, it tends to involve what her colleagues have called clowning. That could mean a giant hat, a big bow tie, unusual voices, or even walking in a funny way. When babies see these social rule violations, they're amused because they already have expectations about how people should behave. You pretending to be a kangaroo, not what they expect. Surprise is actually one of the key elements of humor, Miro explains. There are 2 theories about this, the arousal safety hypothesis and the benign violation theory. They're basically the same thing. The idea is that humor involving a surprise is seen as non-threatening, so if you hand your child a stuffed animal, they'll expect the stuffed animal. But if you suddenly toss it on the floor, well, that new twist will probably make them laugh. The key is really about familiarity and playfulness. If a smiling adult tosses it aside, it's funny. But if a stranger angrily throws it against a wall, it's definitely not. Even Charles Darwin noticed this. In his 1872 work, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, he wrote that being tickled by a stranger would make a child scream in fear. Of course, there are exceptions. In London, children's theater producers Sarah Argent and Kevin Lewis have put on several plays for babies aged 6 months and up, with help from Casper Addyman and research from the Infant Lab. Shows like Out of the Blue and Shake, Rattle and Roll actually anticipated a baby's natural wariness of strangers. Performer Maisie Whitehead would meet the babies at the start of Shake, Rattle and Roll, singing to get them used to her. During the show, Whitehead pretending to wobble, losing and regaining her balance, totally entranced the babies. What really stood out for Lewis was the idea that a baby's laugh can actually be a method of control. Lewis told Mental Floss, there is a sense that laughter is a tool of power. If I laugh, the big person does this thing or action again. I can keep making them do it again and again and again and again and keep having pleasure, and I am in control. So, in a way, when babies laugh, they're actually using a form of manipulation. Babies are also able to pick up on intention. If you pretend to drop something and say ha ha, the baby will probably laugh. But if you say uh-oh and act concerned, the baby will treat it as a serious event. In fact, dropping objects with an exaggerated response was a highlight of our Gents productions, sending babies into, giggle fits. But there's an expiration date on these kinds of actions, since babies will quickly learn that the unexpected, like tossing the stuffed animal, can now be expected. Or, as Miro puts it, babies aren't stupid. They won't find it infinitely funny. The more babies learn about the world, the more caregivers can subvert their expectations. But one misunderstanding leads to probably the closest thing to a guaranteed laugh parents can pull off without resorting to tickling peekaboo. There are a couple of reasons why peekaboo works. One relates to a concept identified by Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget, called object permanence. The idea that something that's out of sight still exists. For a baby, the existence of a physical object depends on whether it's visible. Mirault explains, if you hide something from a 6-month-old baby, like car keys, By covering them up, the baby won't look for them. The idea that the keys are just hidden isn't something they can grasp yet. The same goes for faces. If a parent covers their face with their hands, its sudden reappearance is a delightful surprise. Miro adds, when you pop up again, it's like, holy smokes, where did you come from? Peekaboo is also a winner because it involves that distortion of reality. Big eyes and silly faces. By 8 or 9 months though, babies have figured out object permanence. Now, when a parent leaves the room, the baby might get upset. They know the adult is in another room, not just gone. That doesn't mean Peekaboo stops working. Babies can still be amused by the fulfillment of the expectation that their parent comes back, or by hiding themselves. Alternatively, a baby may laugh, but as they get older, it might sound less sincere. Miro says, babies can fake laugh at 6 months. They can laugh to get attention. They start to babble and get vocal control and use voluntary laughter, like when someone says, ha ha ha, and it doesn't sound super genuine. It's just a nice, social gesture. It's kind of wild to think that an adult who's a comic genius to a 4-month-old may be a Vegas hack by 6 months, only getting sympathy chuckles. By laughing, Miro says, the infant is saying, look, this is not that funny anymore, but I don't want to stop playing, so come up with something else. As babies grow into toddlerhood, other kinds of humor start to make sense. At 7 to 9 months, they find humor in contradictions. Put a hat on a dog, and they'll crack up. By 12 months, they might see a cup and call it a spoon, or laugh at an adult who does the same thing. But the real milestone in a baby's sense of humor might come when they actually try to make others laugh. At 5 months, babies have enough motor control to, say, hold up their own smelly feet instead of waiting for a parent to do it. By 8 months, they'll even tease others. Miro says, it shows they understand other people can be tricked. They'll offer something like car keys, and when you reach for them, they'll pull them away. This is more than just humor. It shows a theory of mind, meaning the idea that other people have different thoughts, beliefs, and expectations. Funny faces might seem simple, but humor is actually a cognitive puzzle that helps babies grow up. And eventually, keep the car keys.